What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Got a special client interview today with my guy, Carter. Carter's been in the program for at least 6 months now, and he's absolutely killed it. But Carter, don't want to steal your thunder. Why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And we can go from there.
What's up, guys? My name's Carter. I own Endish Performance, and I joined with Nick about 6 months ago. I joined right as I was heading into PT school, and I also had my last season of baseball as well, the last about 6 months. So coming in, I knew that I wanted to build the business, but didn't really know if that'd be possible or how possible that would be during that time. So came to Nick for help. Didn't have much going for me, and now we're here.
Yeah, appreciate you jumping on, dude. I'm excited to dive in. Why don't we go ahead and start off with, where you were at more specifically before you jumped into the program. I don't want to speak for you. Yeah. Why don't you just go ahead and kind of paint that whole picture for me?
So I started posting on Instagram probably in like late April of last year, so 2025. And from there, I kept posting. Didn't really get that much attention. I guess I got attention on social media, but it definitely was not converting to anywhere else. And so I knew that I wanted to make it my job, even with going to PT school. I knew that like I wanted to make coaching my job. This remote space was really the right way for me to go. And so I needed to find a way to basically convert my audience. And I had no idea how to do that. I had one athlete and he actually came from it in person, so it was more like a hybrid setup in that way too. So when I came in, it was about, I believe it was like almost November, and just like I said, one athlete I had, and no real leads for. I mean, it had been a couple months since I had really gotten anyone to have real interest. So from there, I just needed some way to try to, like I said, convert my audience, and I had no idea how to do that. So.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. When you say convert your audience, maybe break down to the viewers like what your audience actually looked like what you were doing on social media before you jumped in.
When I first started, I was big into basically just trying to get as many likes and followers as I could, which I
Mm.
realize now, or I know now, that is not really the most ideal way to actually create a business out of things. But I did have, so I actually converted my personal Instagram into my business one as I started. So I had about 1,200 followers, but none of those were any sort of baseball people. I mean, maybe some of teammates or something like that, but no real audience aside from some high school friends. And so from there, I was trying to build. I had one video kind of pop off a little bit. It was like a throwing med balls video, and that ended up getting me about 1,000 followers. And I was like, okay, I can at least get some people's attention, even if it's not the right way. And then from there, yeah, I just really needed to understand how to convert them. And basically, even though I was getting the followers and likes, it wasn't getting me any business or any real money in my pocket. So that was what I needed to learn.
Yeah, sick. And so you had like a pretty good level of awareness of online coaching in general before you jumped into the program, right? It's not like you saw my ad and I was the first person who had ever mentioned online coaching before.
Right. So the reason I actually started coaching in the first place is because I worked with I'll say a bigger company out of or in college when I was actually playing,
Yeah.
and I had a good time with them, but knew it could be better. There was a lot of things, especially on the communication end, that I didn't agree with them,
Mm.
and I knew that I wanted to make it essentially a more simplified, but also better aspect of what they do, and basically turn into more of a client and player centered. Development program rather than just a business.
Mm. Unpack that for me because a lot of people maybe see like, online coaching, they might even see it as like a cash grab. Talk to me about how you were able to, or like what was the inspiration then for you to make it really client focused?
So my time with the company that I worked with, and then also even now since I've been training people, I've actually gotten a bunch of their former athletes, not intentionally, just kind of how it works. They
Yep.
they leave a place and they need something new, and they had a similar experience to me. So hearing that over and over again, that like they're having an issue with communication and not getting enough attention from their coaches, really
Mm.
just like struck a nerve with me. Is like, okay, there's so many guys like remote coaching works, but it only works with communication involved. And so understanding that aspect that it's so important to actually make the person be felt, especially in today's age of, I think there's a lot of AI, and people are starting to get sick of it in a way to where it's almost reversing to people really wanting the person-to-person factor, even if it's over the phone, like we're talking right now. Some way to get a human aspect involved is just really important. And it's really big, I think, even for their development, even on the field, not just as a feel-good thing, but as truly developing.
Yeah, 100%. What I think is super interesting, a theme amongst the people that I do these interviews with is they're so motivated by helping athletes. And then the business success comes as a result. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, do you feel like you can kind of relate to that, or are you just like, nah, bro, I was just trying to make money?
I was definitely not trying to make money at the start. As much as I was trying to make it, I was, if anything, my pure goal from the start was, as far as money goes, was trying to pay off PT school before I got out of it. That was my biggest goal. And for those who don't know, PT school is about 100 grand in 3 years. So definitely not like a crazy, like I need to make $1 million really quickly or anything. I knew I needed to make money from it, but aside from that, it was like I said, I really felt inspired by having not the best experience on my own and hearing so many other people, my teammates, my friends, and now people that I train having the same idea of like, okay, it's just a communication thing at the end of the day, and being felt or like being knowing that you are felt by somebody else and that you're being impacted by somebody else truly is really important.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I think is actually really interesting, Carter, is like you have really good motives. You were already posting on social media. You'd proven to get some followers. You knew how to get athletes results, especially in an online setting. Why would you even buy the program?
So I had just like even with the attention that I was getting, like gaining followers, and I would reach out to every single person that followed me at the start, especially, and it just would never go anywhere. No one had real interest in me as a coach. It was just like a quick grab of my information off of the internet, and no idea how to actually do anything real past there. I also in my content at the start, especially, was like I said, I would show like exercises or I'd show something along those lines, but it wasn't like true value. It was more of like quick things that guys could grab that it wouldn't even really help them, to be honest. And so since then, since coming in, I learned how to actually portray or give real value to people. And since then, as well, even just showing how an athlete made a change over time. If that helped one guy, it could probably help somebody else. So instead of just showing them a random exercise, it could be I showed them a particular or like how I guess it developed somebody else. And if they think they're in the same shoes, even if they're not paying to train with me, they get the same type of help. So,
Hmm, interesting. A lot of people before they join the program have the idea that making social media content is all about giving free tips. But what you just said seems like maybe that's not actually what value is. Can you explain the difference between like just free tips and drills and like actually providing real value to these athletes?
right. So, like I said, yeah, totally spot on, I think. And basically, the way I see it, it is kind of a fine line, right? Because all exercises do work for somebody, but just posting an exercise doesn't necessarily give each person value. So I think at least explaining what type of person or what type of issue somebody has and then match it with an exercise, maybe that would help. But yeah, there is a very thin line between the two of just posting random exercises that's probably not going to help anybody versus even I've noticed a lot with like talking head type videos as we call it, where I'm just speaking like I am to you right now and talking about issues or talking about mental stuff, the mental game, talking through ideas of training, but giving the actual background on a topic, maybe some sort of exercise like theory or something along those lines, rather than just dumping an exercise on them and saying, here, try it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Okay, so before joining the program, you were in a pretty decent spot. You jump in. What were maybe like the first 30 to 60 days like for somebody like you?
So I ended up quitting my job. I had a part-time job as a physical therapy aide before I was about to head into school. And I was planning on doing that. So school started for me in January. I was planning on doing that until like mid-December. So I was planning on taking a couple week break. But then I started this program in November and I just said, you know what, like I need the first, like you said, 30 to 60 days. Actually, it's funny you say that those days because that's like the exact time period of like I need to nail everything down before I get into school and just to make sure that I've fully dived in as much as I possibly could before then. And so I did that. I quit my job. Just went fully into making sure that I got through all of your modules, all the documents, everything like that. Talked to you guys as much as I could, and from there, it just really felt like it took off really quickly.
Yeah. And when you say took off really quickly, what does that mean?
So my first, like I said before, actually, it was a couple months of one athlete, and I kind of already knew him, so it didn't even really count as being a remote guy. So basically nothing and no leads coming. And the first 10 weeks of programming, I signed up 7 athletes. And so that was like the second I knew that I was like, okay, I have a chance here for sure. Like there's some light at the end of this tunnel and there's something here that I've been working towards. And now since then, I've just completely bought into it.
Yeah, sweet. And so what do you feel like were the biggest differences to be able to actually convert your audience? Because before you came into the program, you were making content, you knew how to get athletes results. Like, why couldn't you sell before? And then what was the difference between you before the program and then once you went through all the info and got the help?
I think the biggest thing that I learned from you guys, period, was this, and it's really just nurturing the audience. And I don't think I've ever would have understood how to do that properly without the help, or it would have taken me a long time. So before, like I said, every time someone followed me, it'd be like an immediate, like I'm texting them, I'm reaching out because I felt like in my heart, and I knew that I could help them so much that I felt like telling them right away would be like, yeah, like they're gonna do it because I know I can help.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's just not how it works. I needed to nurture a lot better and I had no idea that that was like even a concept. I felt like like I said, I just needed to shove it down their throats, and instead learning how to basically, like in simple terms, take my time with it and make sure that they understand me as a coach, and more importantly, that I understand them as a player and where they're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about how much time it really took you to sign up 7 new athletes in the first 10 weeks.
It was, I believe that, I mean, the first few weeks, I'm sure I was just setting up. I can't remember exactly what it was, but by the end of it, it was probably like 7 athletes in 7 weeks. So I took probably, yeah, like I said, the first few weeks, I probably didn't get anyone if I had to guess, or if I remember correctly. But after that, it was like really quick. I remember I got three of my better athletes now all signed up in the same week. I'm sure I had a post in there that was a lot better than the others, and that helped.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took off very quickly, and then the spring season hit a little bit, so it slowed down a little after that. But now that summer's hitting again, I can see it starting to jump up, and that's just been awesome.
Yeah, amazing. And how much time would you say per week you need to dedicate to online coaching in order to see like real results?
So during that time, I don't know if it's an exact time as far as a need. The need is not as high as the want, right? So like some people like me, I guess I would say perfectionist, but I really want to see things be like beautiful. So I definitely have taken my time more than other people. And my basic setup is I go to school, and until this past week, my season just ended. But until then, it was school and baseball until about 5, like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. So then the time remaining in that on top of doing homework. So I would maybe get a couple hours a night of truly building the business side of things and doing social media and everything like that. So I would say bare minimum would be, yeah, maybe like at least an hour or two a night. And there will be some nights where, or maybe weekends in some cases where there's going to need to be some longer days. But at the end of the day, it's not really the need that takes a long time, but it's a want of how nice and how good can you get it for your athletes. It does take some time if you truly want it that badly, I guess.
Yeah, sweet. Okay. And so you jump into the program, you spend a couple hours a night, you sign up athletes into your program. How do you think, and what do you charge, by the way?
So when I first came in, it was a lot less, which is funny because I started charging more and I actually ended up getting more people. When I first came in, I was probably you're gonna like that. I was probably charging about $200 a month on average, and then by the time I started getting people, it was around probably 300 a month. And now it's between with some there's some paid in full options too, but it's between 400 to $500 a month on average.
Yeah. It's interesting. You started charging more and you started getting more people.
I
Somebody
did.
out there watching this right now is probably going to think that that's ridiculous. Why do you think that that is?
So I would have said the same thing. I didn't want to increase my prices at all because again, I was so athlete centered that I was just like, I really want to keep them down as much as I can to give it to as many people as I can. I also noticed at the same time with the athletes that were coming in at the lower prices, they did not care very much or as much as I wanted them to. Like basically, if I'm caring more than you, there's no shot that you're succeeding, really, right? So those guys were not caring as much as they should. And on top of that, there was a lot of issues with like the business end of things with the guys that were paying less, to be quite honest. It was a more of a struggle to just even sustain the business. So from there, I knew that I had to increase the amount. On top of that, so I remember there was a day with Matt Ross that we were talking, and I had sent him. He was like, "Just show me all of your intake stuff, or all of your documents, everything that you send your athletes." And I'll never forget this. I sent it to him, and I was like kind of expecting him to crap on it a little bit. And he ended up, he goes, "Do you know that there's people that are charging double what you have for half of what you give?" And I was like, well, that just like opened my eyes big time. So I was charging around that time probably $300 for pretty much as you can give an athlete remotely. And especially with how much I believed in myself, I knew that I was like, okay, I'm way underselling myself here, and I need to understand my value. And I think at the same time, when I started understanding my own value, people started almost respecting me more and being like, okay, I understand why he's charging the way he does.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you feel like that was something that you needed to go through before you really fully grasp that concept?
Definitely. I think if like he was probably trying to convince me of raising my prices for a while. I'm pretty stubborn. I think everyone would call me stubborn. So to get me to move things is not easy, and I need a lot of proof and a lot of evidence that I should be. So it probably took me, I want to even to move up to 300 from the 200 that I was at, especially because I had nobody. I was like, well, how am I supposed to raise my prices when I don't have anybody?
Yeah.
So to even get up to there was a lot, and then to get me up to 400 and $500 a month was definitely very difficult.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody then who is maybe in a similar position to you, who is maybe watching this and they're skeptical of the program, right? Maybe they don't really think it's going to be worth it because they have some good momentum, or maybe they don't really want to change things. Like, what would you say to that person right now?
I think nobody has it figured out as much as they think they do. Even when I kind of knew that I didn't understand enough about it when I was first coming in, but it was even deeper than I realized at the time, that I just really did not know what I was doing. And on top of that, it's just I don't know how you even explain it. It's just so much more information. It comes down to even the setup of how you schedule a call or little things like that, smaller aspects that I would have never even thought about. How to master some DMs, how like converting your audience, like I've been talking about. Nurturing is such a deep conversation and such a deep concept that just even the little things are a lot more difficult than people realize.
Hmm. Yeah. So would you say that the program then that you purchased, would you say that it was worth it?
So I definitely I got about 9 times return on my investment in the 6 months that I've been here, which I would have said probably even to break even on it would have been great because the lessons that I learned from it that I'm going to take on are going to be infinitely for return. But just even the direct in the first 6 months to have 9x is pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations. What do
Thank
you
you.
think made you successful?
I think the sport, I'm a lot of the people that are doing this obviously have a sports background, or most of them a pretty deep one. And going through college athletics and going through, or even high school or professional, wherever it may be, really teaches you a lot. And I think if you just take those aspects into the coaching side, and it's really just comes down to how bad you want it, as like cliche as that sounds. And if you really think that you're good enough to help people, then you need to be helping people. There's no excuse to not be trying to help others. I think I've seen you post in the past that I really like, which is it's almost selfish to not help people if you know you can or if you're good enough to do it.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Okay. Who would you say then that the program is for versus like who it's not for? Like if somebody's watching this right now and they're like, yeah, I mean, like this Nick guy, like obviously he can help, but like, is this really for me? Like, what would you say?
The people that's 100% for would be anybody who really thinks that they can make this a job, even if it's not full time, even if it's like a decent part-time thing. If it's really just pure like side stuff, maybe not for you. But if you truly believe that it could be part-time at the start or obviously turn into a full-time and a big-time business for you, it would be definitely right for you. And my opinion is if I can do it while being in school, being in doctorate school, playing at the same time and running my business and then doing this stuff on top of it, there shouldn't be really anybody that has not enough time to do the program. If I can't imagine that people have less time than I did, and I still was managed to get through everything, finished all the everything that you had for me in the modules, talked to Matt all the time, and I didn't even go to any of the calls, and it was still super beneficial. I didn't have time, which I wish I would have, but for me to not even be able to go to any of the calls and still get such a big benefit out of it, I think speaks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing, bro. Congratulations, dude. What is the plan for you moving forward? Obviously, you're done with your college career now. You got a 9x return on the program. You know I'm going to milk that. Uh, what's the plan for you moving forward?
So I'm gonna finish up school. I graduate in the summer of 2028. So physical therapy school takes a long time, as you can tell.
Yeah,
So that's gonna be a while, but I'm gonna run this business as well as I can. Keep using the concepts that I learned from here along the way, and I'm just gonna keep doing this forever. As so, I'm going through PT school, but this is my plan forever. So I'm basically gonna use the leverage of the physical therapy side and the knowledge of the body to just build as much as I possibly could.
yeah, it's incredible, bro. That's incredible. Well, Carter, is there anything else that you want to say while we got the camera rolling right now?
I think obviously Nick, but also especially Matt and everybody on the squad really is just the best people ever. Like they, as when I came across them, I do want to add this fun fact. So I came across and I swiped up on Nick's ad on accident. I had already been talking to another person in the program about it, so I had been considering, and I think Instagram must have been listening to me, so they knew to give me your ad. But I actually swiped up on accident. So then I kind of saw that as a sign. I was like, okay, well, I already sent the message. It was an accident, but like we might as well talk about it. And it is sketchy a little bit to hear like the whole like I sell a course type thing. There's like a big like kind of meme on the internet, I guess, of like I sell courses. So it's hard to trust. But at the same time, that's exactly what athletes see in us as performance coaches, as it's like it's hard to trust people. But genuinely, Matt and Nick both and the rest of the team are just truly good people, and they're not here to steal your money. They're really here to help you. So
Yeah. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. I want to say that I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to serve you, dude. And you sent me a message. It's probably like 4 months ago. You were talking about how, like, just investing in yourself. You know what I mean? Like how much time it saved you and everything like that. So I think you have a really, really good mentality towards, the value that you got out of the program and how it's going to help you with your long-term vision. So I want to say, like, I commend you for being so mature at such a young age. You're way further ahead of where I was. How old are you, by the way?
I just turned 24.
Yeah, crazy. Sick, dude. Well, before we wrap up here, where can people find you just so they know you're not AI?
So that's funny. I'm on Instagram at endish.performance and also on TikTok, endish.performance, same thing.
Yeah, amazing, bro. Well, Carter, thanks for jumping on. Super stoked to see your progression as not only a business owner, but as a man. I think it's going to be really awesome to watch. If you're a coach watching this and you want to coach athletes online and you're not in a program, I'm really not sure what you're doing. But anyway, Carter, appreciate you jumping on. We'll catch you in the
Of
next one.
course. Thank you.